Hi everyone and welcome to Nonbinary Night Reads. I'm Everin, aka Nonbinary Night, and this is my first actual YouTube video. So I was trying to figure out what to do with this, and eventually I stumbled across the Booktube Newbie Tag, and I have a tablet here with the questions on it, so it's just get started and see how this goes. Question 1. Why did you start this channel? So I've had a blog and a Instagram account going for a couple of years now, I think. And I recently made a friend, and when I was telling her about these things, she asked me why I wasn't doing YouTube. And she just kept bringing it up in a very supportive and loving way. And eventually I just started asking myself why I wasn't doing YouTube. And eventually I caved. And don't get me wrong, I adore the Booktube community. I watch them a lot. Just the concept of sitting in front of a camera and talking to it was terrifying to me. So I just kept putting off doing it. But I finally decided, why not give it a shot, see where it goes. If it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. Question 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? I struggled just with the concept of that question a lot because Booktube is such a wide amount of creators. It encompasses so many people of so many different backgrounds that I don't know if there's anything unique I can bring to it because there are so many people with so many experiences. I'm just hoping to bring my experiences and the books I love with me when I do this. And that includes the fact that I have books from indie publishers on my shelves and I adore them. But it also includes the fact that I have popular books I've still not read and I need to. I don't know if there's anything unique I can offer. I'm just hoping to bring my own perspective, my own love of books. Question 3. What are you most excited for about this new channel? In all honesty, I'm just excited to be doing it. I'm excited to meet with other people who love books. I'm excited to talk about the books that I love the most. I'm just excited to get to sit here and share this love of reading with other people, especially my love of queer books with other people, because I don't get that in real life right now. Or at least I don't get a lot of it. And I am just wanting to share with more. Question 4. Why do you love reading? When I originally was reading as a kid, I loved it because of the escape. It was a way to just not be present at the time. And that love still holds true. That reason still holds. I still use it, reading as an escape. But I also love reading because I get to experience the books I didn't have as a kid. The books I wanted as a kid. The books I am so happy exist now for these kids. I get to relive my childhood in these books because of the fact that I now have these books as available to me, ready for me. And it's still an escape. It's a way for me to live out fantasies like being a knight. But it's also just a way for me to connect with my inner child again. Question 5. What book or series got you into reading? That is a tough question. One of the original series that got me into reading as a kid was the Percy Jackson series. I adore Rick Riordan and his variety of books. I'm obsessed, and I have an entire shelf full of his books. But that was probably one of the original ones that got me into it. And I also read a bunch of the popular YA books at my time, like the Divergent series, Hunger Games, things like that. And they were good books. I remember enjoying them. And then I took a few years off, and I discovered something new that got me back into reading. In college, I started discovering queer books. One of the first authors I ever read was Kim Baldwin, who's published through Bold Strokes Books. One of the first lesbian YA books I read was A Love Story Starring My Dead Best Friend by Emily Horner. And both of these books had kind of opened up that part of me that said, hey, these are books that exist. So then I kept being on the hunt for more and more and more of these books, of these queer books. And this is now part of my collection. I own physical copies of both of those books that got me into reading my queer books, and I treasure them so much because of what they led me to. Question 6. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? This is a tough one. Not because I don't have favorite booktubers, but because there are so many questions that can be asked to these people. One of my go-to questions would be what some of their favorite queer books are, because I'm obsessed and I want to know other people's recommendations. Another one would be how they got used to this. What helped them get used to sitting in front of a camera and talking for minutes on end, because that's probably going to be where I struggle the most. I would also ask them what they do and don't recommend. Their little guide of do this, not that, you'll be fine. I would ask for advice. Number 7. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? In all honesty, talking to the camera. I'm naturally a very awkward and kind of anxious person, and the idea of sitting in my apartment just talking to a camera by myself makes me feel very awkward. So right now I'm trying to just act like I'm talking to my friend instead. I'm answering these questions as she had asked me, because it helps. So I think that's going to take me a while to get over. I also think just my general inability to follow a rigid schedule. I'm trying right now to make sure I'm posting regularly, but I don't know if that might take me a while to get used to. I know for a fact it will take me a while to get used to. Question 8. When did you start reading? I started reading as a kid. Like, my mom would read to me when I was a young kid. I don't actually know what age I started reading. I know for a fact I was reading in elementary school. I was in a competition for who could earn the most AR points with one of my friends. I know I was reading in elementary school. I just don't know when I first started. I also know that I took some years off in high school. It was specifically my junior and senior year where I was just not reading anymore for the most part. And I started back up heavily in quarantine. When quarantine actually hit. Question 9. Where do you read? For the most part, I read at home. I will usually read in my bedroom, or I will read on the couch. I don't really like to read in other places, because then I have to bring my books other places, and that risks them getting damaged. And my brain's just not okay with that. But, when I was in college, I also used to do a lot of reading in the library there, because I would already be there, be on my computer and everything, so I would just flip through books. Question 10. What kind of books do you like to read? Okay, my bread and butter is probably romance. Like, that's where I read most of my books at, and I adore them. I'm obsessed with my romance books. But I've recently tried to venture out and get into fantasy, sci-fi. I struggle with nonfiction, but I am trying to read it. Graphic novels are also another big thing for me. I love them. My biggest thing in terms of the books I like to read is I like to read books with queer characters in them, or books that were written by queer and trans authors. These are what I find myself wanting to read right now. I've read a couple of straight books last year. I've read a couple that weren't queer and were just like various other things. I read over 100 books last year. I'm pretty sure 90% of them were queer in some way or another. It's just what I do. Question 11. What does your book collection look like? My book collection is a mess. I live in an apartment, and I have a 16-cube bookshelf as well as 2 other bookshelves in my bedroom. All of them are stocked full of books. I have taken up these shelves that are in the hallway, and they are stocked to books. Some that are even like 2 or 3 deep. The ones in my bedroom are too. And then I have, right now, 3 of these Billy bookcases that are full of my queer books in the dining room. Yeah. My book collection is an absolute mess, but I adore it so much because I have worked so hard to get these books into my collection. Because I don't buy a whole bunch of new books. I tend to get books that I've won, books that I've gotten used, stuff like that, and they just fill my shelves. And it fills me with so much joy and love. My book collection's a mess. I probably own way too many books. But every time I see them, I smile. So that was it for the questions. I'm going to try and upload here semi-regularly. I already have plans to do a January wrap-up on the books that I've read in January, as well as possibly a January haul on the books that I've bought, won, traded for, etc. So, we'll see how that goes. I'm going to try and post here regularly, though. That's one of my main goals for this year. See you later.